There we go. Greetings. We're gonna give it a few moments. If I angle the reflection just right on my glasses, you guys can get this really cool portal effect. So we're gonna kind of arrange that while we wait. Just kidding. While we let everyone come in the room. Come on, guys. Roll through. Good to see you all. Man, so yes, we are definitely in, I would say, kind of the mid to early stages, or maybe, maybe it's a more mild storm than in other areas, but we have been experiencing a little bit of the what I call the hurricane madness over here. For the record, for anyone that finds this recording, I would say we're just a little bit southeast of the Tampa area out here in the wilds of Florida, and so it has so far extreme wind, a lot of rain. We went for like a good walk outside, like long enough and enough wind to be like, damn, okay, this is a little bit extreme. But at this stage, nothing that I would call cataclysmic on any level. And so anyway, hello everyone, greetings and thank you for joining us. Our internet also has been on and off constantly. There's a chance, who knows, maybe this thing will just drop randomly, but who knows? Yeah, the eye portals are a thing. What's up, Aurora Diamond Heart? For those of you guys who don't know, Aurora, one of our mods, is going to be joining us on our Saturday show. For anyone that wants to come hang out this Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be, as you might have heard on Facebook or some other social media outlet, we kind of moved this Saturday's meeting from the multi-dimensional trailer park. We're going to move it down to the basement in the abyss of your very, into the deepest abyss of your being. So we're going to go way inward for this Saturday show. So please do come join us. Aurora Diamond Heart's going to be hanging out. And yeah, the whole eye portal thing. Some of you guys that are super observant will notice I actually have different glasses today, and they're super like reflective. And that's because in the midst of all the hurricane madness here, I broke my other glasses, which for some people the world is literally nothing, but if you're a person that wears glasses every day, it's like you have that moment where like you'll break them and you're all, oh my god, it's like a weird it's like a momentary trauma and like rage and fear all at the same time. And then luckily I have other ones, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's always you're like, oh dude, just that moment. There we go, Aurora. Totally, almost broke my glasses this morning. Right. It's a little bit of a frightening moment. Fortunately, it wasn't major, and I glued them back together. But yeah, we're gonna be rolling backup style, which is here's like the wild thing. Not to go into the what I call the just like the boring normalness of our, human life. But the backup glasses are way, way, way better than the regular ones. So it's weird. For once, I'm like, whoa, I can actually see everything. I don't even know if I'm into that. I can see all the great imperfections within the world and myself. Not really though. But anyway, so why are we here, you guys? Part of the reason for today's appearance is kind of one to just maybe talk about a little bit of the energies that we've been having, with this weird weather disturbance. If you're in other parts of the world or on other areas of the US, you're probably just in the normal zone. But over here, it's definitely crazy, and I know a lot of people have been commenting on it. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. If you're good at paying attention, remind me to tell you guys about the dream space, because I think a number of us right now are experiencing maybe a little bit of an upgrade or a change, or just it's like there's somewhat of a new wind blowing through the dream body realm lately, at least in my experience. And so don't let me forget to mention that. um, but in the meantime, we did have a couple announcements. As a lot of you guys know, yes, we already mentioned our Saturday show coming up. And then another part of what we're going to be doing here today is just kind of like demonstrating and working with the energy of multidimensional tarot. As long as our internet allows us to, we're going to be pulling some cards, looking at just kind of energy of the moment, and then also talking a little bit about the classes and the groups and stuff, because part of the next chapter of the work that we're doing at the School of Multidimensional Intuition, as a lot of you guys already know, involves just new levels of training, new levels of what I call the multidimensional education process, which really is, I mean, honestly, it's a truly individual journey that everyone goes through, and there's certain points within that journey where we link up with others and help each other kind of like remember what it is we were doing, remember why we came here, remember old pieces of knowledge. And the fun thing about right now on earth is that everyone has a key, everyone has a piece, everyone, and you know, some people say this is a cheap statement, but everyone that finds this literal recording in the multidimensional time stream, you are an expert in some form of non-physical, what we might call intuitive, psychic, or we could even say spiritual energy. The majority of people that will even be attracted to this very live stream right here, it's usually because there's a frequency that can reach you. And so thank you for allowing it. And what I think we're going to be noticing as the year kind of tails on and we move into 2023 is that a lot of people are stepping into new assignment stages. For those of you guys that know me, you know I always get super into like terminology and stuff, and I call it just mission stage activation at like certain gateways of the human journey. I think that one of the kind of like the collective gateways that we're experiencing right now partially involves, you know, what I believe to be, you know, somewhat man-made, or we could call natural or technologically enhanced kind of weather things. I think it involves further action, or what we might call sabotage of infrastructure on the world stage, like throughout, you know, other places of the world. A lot of you guys know about, you know, whatever pipeline that was that got blown up, or, you know, whatever it is. And I'm not really getting into like the details of that whole thing. What I'm getting into is kind of like the idea that we are at the stage of the journey where many strange and unplanned, I think there was a phrase that people were throwing around a few years back. You don't hear it too much now, but they were calling it the Black Swan event every now and then. That was a fun term, which to me always felt a bit more maybe extreme, maybe inflammatory. But yeah, I think I do personally believe that we are poised for great revealings, some shock moments. Once again, a little bit like we had, you know, maybe with the public, I'll call it the public death of the Queen, which for those of you guys that heard me maybe talk about a little bit in other areas, I just, man, I'll just be real. I feel like I almost know, and you know, I know that's always such a dicey thing to say. I know, you know, I just know it, but I feel very strongly that her spirit passed on quite some time ago. I do believe, and I know a lot of us have observed that, you know, there was another being or another kind of entity we could call that kind of inhabits the royals at large. And I think that she was, you know, kind of like a vessel for some form of intergenerational kind of like who knows what form, but you know, a lot of people would call it a reptilian energy, and it may very well have been, but you know, as far as I could tell, she had kind of left that container quite some time ago. And I guess it's kind of interesting to see, and this is the first time I've been live since that, so for some of you guys it'll be like, Matthew, that was old news from last week, but I guess this is the first time I'm kind of publicly commenting on it, so I'll be doing a little bit of a rewind here. But I just felt the entire operation was so utterly contrived. They had it planned and put together, probably, as we all know, for years. And I think it's really interesting now for those of you guys that want to really watch what kind of effect that is going to have. Just watch what happens next in terms of the way things are escalated, or way things that just like the gradual, slow tightening. And anyway, there's a bunch of things that I was going to mention there and go into more detail about, but there's like a phenomenon that occurs when I'm about to comment on certain things. It'll get like edited, and it's like this nudge. It's like a weird nudge to move forward. But yeah, anyway, somebody out there said, who, where was it? Where was it? Oh, what's up, White Swan? How's it going? Matthew's bouncing make me feel like I'm vibrating. You know, thank you for saying that. I have noticed the past few months as I do these live streams, there's like this constant sort of like movement that I think I have noticed the body kicks in a really interesting way. I think a lot of that has to do with just kind of like the enhanced transmission of like energy when we sort of open ourselves up, and there's like this weird sort of like reaction that takes place. Because I've noticed over the years in like other readings that I do, and like, just because every session I do is videotaped, the times when I do go back and look at them, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of like bizarre movement and strange gestures that we do, which I would say, like in the old days, I would watch that back and cringe, and nowadays I'm just like, well, there we are. And so, yeah, there is. I'm in very, very, we could call it incredibly bouncy. I think I have a little bit of an anxiety thing. I definitely not over the storm, because I have to say it feels very safe there, at least within the area of Florida that we are currently in right now. It definitely does not feel like there is a cataclysmic storm like disaster about to roll through. And granted, I think if you were to look at like the projected storm map, technically I think we're kind of right within that big thick wide band of like the chaos zone. um, and so technically, if we were following the model that was given to us, through, the media right now, you'd think it would be much worse. And who knows, maybe it's just starting. I leave total room for that. I'm not experienced with extreme weather, but it feels very, very safe. And so thank you for your well wishes. Thank you for the prayers. I feel like Florida in general is going to come through pretty fine. But here's the thing, I say that as, a lot of people will kind of cringe and, twist around to the statement, but I am also very, very new to the state as well, like a lot of us. But definitely feels like it's going to roll through in the coming days. And I do really believe that a big part of what's happening is being kind of artificially enhanced at this stage through the media and the way that they show like the projected paths of certain things. In my personal opinion, and I think also experience, I think that we're shown that to kind of to trick us into manifesting that worst case scenario path. And I think it kind of worked a little bit from the perspective that we saw it kind of twist over and move a little bit more toward, like the mainland parts of Florida. But I do believe that at the same time, we can just as easily stir it away or kind of disperse that energy. And so I think that's what will happen over the coming days. I think it's just going to kind of, fade away in a strange form. But anyway, over to the chat. What's up, everybody? Thanks. I just went into some weird dissociative rant session about all kinds of things as we started today. Thanks for hanging out. Damn, we saw videos of houses floating away already. Man, I'm sorry for those of you guys that have had that. Well, I suppose one good thing about the area that we're in is we're definitely on like the the higher ground, as we could say. And so I don't even see any flooding coming here, but who knows? What do I know? There could very well be a tornado, which would be wild. But anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions just about the energy or what's been going on. I have noticed, I will make this observation, and I'm wondering if anyone else out there has experienced a similar thing. I noticed that right around the period where, at least just in the past 24 hours or so, what I'm experiencing might be tied in part to where we are, because there's such an increased elemental effect, lots of, we could call electromagnetic, just energies and all kinds of just an incredible natural stirring up of all the energies around here. Or maybe it's happening for everyone. Maybe it's a collective thing. But what I've noticed over the past, I would say, I'll say 48 hours, 48 hours. And that's helping me remember to talk about the dream thing. That there has been a tremendous amount of third eye activity for me. Now, what would I mean by third eye activity? And this is why I'm saying, hey guys, check your sensations. How are you feeling? What I've noticed is at certain times when the third eye will activate, I will filter it through what I have been experiencing. I've noticed that over the past couple of days, it's been very, very easy to sort of sit there and like zone out and kind of go into that state where your eyes kind of close and you kind of defocus your vision, which is not a thing that I do all the time. It's not been like a common practice for me every day, but I've noticed suddenly over the past 48 hours, I would kind of sit there and breathe and kind of like zone out and defocus my vision. And there's this thing that I've been noticing happening, and it's just this really wild upsurge of energy into the third eye that seems to come after you kind of breathe and let your body settle. And for those of you guys that practice either, just any form of eye engagement or meditations or transference of energy through the eye or eye gazing with another person, you'll notice that at a certain point, as you're kind of working with the eye muscles, you have a tendency to like move your eyes away or kind of avert your gaze, or something will kind of shiver and you'll kind of pull your focus back in. What I've been noticing is that there's this just incredible amount of third eye activity, and this literal, like a visual portal that would kind of open up within my field of view. And one of the ways that we'll identify where the energy is that's activating is, number one, through the color, which is in most cases, I would say generally reliable when you're feeling into kind of chakra activity and you're able to perceive a visual color spectrum inside your body. Yet at the same time, I don't think that we can use that as a sole factor in helping us diagnose energy within a chakra. I think that any of the chakras will have a varying color spectrum, or rather, I've observed a varying color spectrum within the chakras of myself. And I would say most of the people that I've worked with, when we've taken the time to really, really peer into that, you'll notice that the colors will shift and change, and there's all kinds of stuff. But getting back to what I think is happening, I think as the atmosphere and the environment has kind of stirred up, as things have been shifted, and maybe even as we've been experiencing somewhat of a technological interference or technological enhancement of the elemental energies that are rolling through, I think that when those things occur, or rather what I'm observing in my experience, is that it's activating or adding energy to certain places on the body where we will be able to perceive it. And so other people might be receiving energy in other areas, throat, solar plexus, I don't know where. But for those of you guys that want to give that a try, and here's the cool thing. If you're not driving, you can literally do it right here while you're listening to this live, and you can kind of just like sit there, let your body kind of relax, and choose a spot. Maybe it's on the wall, maybe, who knows, maybe it's on the screen, although, that might not work as well because it's backlit. But choose a spot in your physical environment and kind of let your breath out. Keep your eyes open so you can kind of focus and see what's still in front of you, but defocus your gaze as well as you can. If you were alive in the 90s, you might remember those sort of 3D kind of images that were out for a while. And it was like you would have to defocus your eyes and kind of turn your head or step back. And after a few moments, the shape would kind of come out. For those of you guys that are familiar with that, you can kind of do that same practice, but just let your body kind of rest and defocus your vision. And notice what comes in. There's times when you're going to get like this waves, like at the bottom of a swimming pool, which when you do perceive that, in some cases, that is a legitimate viewing of kind of energy that's moving through. But let me know if you get any experience or just enhanced experience with that space right in your third eye. For those of you guys that are able to tune into it, you'll probably perceive it kind of almost like a holographic or this colored shape type image that kind of shows up in the third eye. It'll be hard to grab onto. That's why you have to defocus your eyes and sort of let it appear. But I believe what's happening right now is that we're going through kind of a collective activation, which would also make sense, you guys, if we were in a stage in which what we would call the powers that be or the powers that were trying to enhance maybe something like a storm or chaos on the earth plane. It seems like they would implement more of those measures or more of those technologies around time when they were able to observe layers of mass activation, or when energy moves through areas in people's body on a collective level. I think right now we're probably having a little bit of a collective, I would like to say a collective third eye activation. But anyway, I'm ranting on and on about the nature of energetic anatomy. What's up, Leland? How's it going? Okay, cool. Here we go. I found it. Somebody's experiencing this. Third eye energy spikes off the chart. I've also heard that there's some solar stuff going on. So maybe that's what it is. But Leland, if you're still here, let us know. Has there been a color spectrum? Have there been any thought forms or other sorts of images that will come to you? That's usually what comes for a lot of you guys after you will kind of sit with the color spectrum when you're tuning into chakras. If you're able to sit with that energy, it's not the same for everyone. Everyone gets a different version of it, but that's almost like those are layers of the energy field. And one of the earliest layers when we get up next to it in our, perceptual space, that's where a lot of us will perceive the color. If you are able to allow yourself to kind of move through whatever that perceptual field of color is, oftentimes you'll move into a different kind of internal space where you might perceive, memories, you might perceive conversations, you'll see symbols. It does become a bit more visual, which I think is an important point to make about the third eye. For those of you guys that are striving to activate or open the third eye, it's oftentimes, and this will be covered in the chakra class coming up in November. On November 6th is when our next chakra class begins. But when you start activating the third eye, one of the things that you will very quickly realize is that it's actually many parts. And there is what I call kind of an infrastructure that's involved within the body, wherein if that infrastructure is not in place, meaning you can imagine if there was no electrical system or plumbing system in place for you to hook up your house to, you could essentially have a third eye that was very operational, but not really plugged into anything in your body. And so one of the things that takes place when we activate the third eye is there's these portal chakras. Some people call them causal chakras. I think they have a number of names, but there's an activity that occurs on the sides of the head. There's energy that moves through the front and the back, the traditional third eye. And then also, like I just said, the back of the head, which is, I call it the back door to the third eye. But what I really believe it is sort of, you guys could imagine it sort of like, maybe a little bit like an exhaust port or a tunnel or a passageway of energy in a visual space that could allow light to move from one end of the structure to the other end of the structure. We could even call it a vent if you want to go there. And then there is, well, maybe not the back door, but what I call kind of the just one of the most forgotten, unknown, and overlooked avenues toward opening your third eye is actually your navel chakra. I used to call it the back door to the third eye, although I think, like I just said, technically the third eye already kind of has like a little bit of a back door space, but the navel chakra and the third eye are inextricably linked, just as are the throat chakra and the solar plexus chakra, just as are the thymic chakra right at the top of your chest and what we call the soul star chakra up above your head. There's a number of places on the energy body where they kind of work in tandem, in pairs. And in order for one to be operational, there has to be a form of activity or energy in one of the lower ones, which is also why a lot of people will live big stretches of this life and work on their energy. And it's like the visual spectrum doesn't necessarily open up. And the thing is, a lot of us have also, myself included, we kind of misunderstand how the third eye is perceived for a lot of us. And so we'll be kind of defining it through other people's, definitions or points of view. But working with the navel chakra will help you open up your visual space within the mind's eye. Likewise, once you're able to do that, working with the third eye specifically will also help you have a kind of a more accurate and open space for kind of visual perception internally, but it will also help you with clarity and how to react, how to respond to life. And I know I'm going on an epic rant about that, but that's essentially what the navel chakra does. It does a lot of things, but they'll have like sort of core functions. And the navel chakra is, for a lot of people, what they call the center for instinct and knowing within the body. And so anyway, watch out, guys. I will go on and on. Watch out. We'll go on and on about chakra stuff, but so yeah, let me know about your third eyes, everybody. How are they feeling? Space Cat says somebody's having premonitions. How's it going, Space Cat? She's had premonitions something is going to happen to her there, and I've been getting messages about her needing to help her the past 24 hours. I hope whoever that is okay. I know I just grabbed a random fragment of your ongoing text, so that was probably like the craziest one to grab, but whoever it is, I hope she's getting out of there. I mean that sincerely. I'm going to scroll through the text here. If you're watching us on social media or in the astral realm, please do share this video. You're going to help me tremendously. Share this video. And if you haven't already clicked like, please do. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. Like I always say, you can unsubscribe ceremoniously later on and teach me a big lesson. Be like, that guy said one thing I don't like. Cancel him. Oh, there we go. What's up, Leland? Thank you. My third eye was tingling like crazy, so I sat with it. I saw a few white flashes with my eyes closed. I saw a flame of light. Whoa, it cleared and enhanced my upper chakras. It felt like a tune-up. My body was vibrating. Thank you for sharing that. I believe a lot of people are having that experience right now. Something similar. Earlier today, which was the thing that made me think about talking about this on the live, I was sitting there, which, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but literally just kind of sitting there spacing out, actually in this very chair, if you want to get technical. And I perceived what was very much as I allowed myself to kind of have that moment where the visual space opens up. There's literally like an opening that showed up, and it's very hard to maintain your sort of your focus upon it. In fact, the way to maintain your focus upon it is usually by not maintaining your focus, because as soon as you try to grab it within your visual space, it slides away. And yeah, it could, it could very well be a solar flash. What's up, La Lova girl? I always mispronounce your screen name. Maybe it is because I heard this morning we're having a lot of solar activity. But yeah, anyway, guys, for those of you guys that are tuning in, we were just talking randomly about activity within the third eye. And for those of you guys that want to learn more about it, you can join our chakra class starting November 6th. You can also go to rememberyourmission.com and check out the training programs that are starting. Anyway, we're going to be talking a lot more about that later. This is not infomercial day, but I'm going to check your comments really quick. Let me know if you have any questions. What's up, Libby V? How's it going? Maybe you're still here. I've been saying this. Collective activations. My third eye visions have been so quickly coming. I resonate with this. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for experiencing that as well. You guys will notice at certain stages of the year, we will be focused on a whole different area of your body. At times it'll be in the third eye. At times it'll be in the crown. At times, and I think probably for the past 2 years, and other people have heard me talk about this. I have heard others reference and mention this in their own way, but we have been going through what I call a mass kind of just awakening and activation of the throat chakra. And how do we know this? Well, we have direct proof. Look at all the people that you know in your social group and in your soul families who are suddenly doing things like making videos and talking about stuff that they would have never talked about a couple of years ago. And suddenly, they're moving into subjects and areas of their life and communicating openly in ways that, they're like, whoa, really? You too? You guys are going to find a lot of people, your friends and family, a lot of you guys here as well, because now you're doing videos, you're creating channels, you're doing your own. It's like you're stepping into a wavelength of just more determined communication, which is what happens when we go through stages of awakening on a collective level with chakras. And so I think, the last few years, I've been seeing a lot of that throat stuff going on. And it could also be because that's what's going on with me. You know how that is. But lately, lots of third eye energy. Lots of third eye energy. And so, totally. Thanks, Sarah. How's it going? Good to see you. I've seen it the same way. The more I tried to see it, the harder it got. Right? It's kind of weird. It's definitely a thing. But yeah. Thanks, you guys. I'm just because I was ranting so long about energy centers. For those of you guys that are doing meditations in your own way and working with your energy, if you're using any form of sound healing, if you are using any form of, mantras or just any dedicated pattern of opening your energy, I'm going to put in the chat, you guys, the capsule phrase for the third eye and the capsule phrase for the navel chakra. So I'm going to put them in there. So third eye. Of course, my keyboard doesn't work. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment while my keyboard clicks on. There it is. So third eye chakra, Avame. Navel. Chi. And for the navel chakra, do chi ro. And so when I do energy clearings, when people book sessions, oftentimes even with the group, we've done it over Patreon a number of times. You can literally chant and sing and allow your body to vibrate with those syllables, with those sounds. If you're willing to actually do it, like do chi ro, you can do the Avame. If you're willing to actually use the voice and allow the body to vibrate with those, if you use them with determination and openness, at this stage of the game, you guys, and sometimes it's a dicey thing to say, but I can nearly guarantee you will experience some form of change or a flow or a sensation of energy within those areas. And so give it a try. Let me know if that let me know if that works for any of you guys. The cool thing is people have let me know that it works over the past couple of years. So it's like I'm getting a little more comfortable with saying, you know what, this actually will do something. But oh man, it definitely does. Thanks, Liz. White Swan. This is our Patreon group. Feel free to join us. We're gonna. I think. Oh, here I'll make a look. Here's the other announcement that we forgot about. October's Patreon meeting is going to be headed up by the one and only Honora Mornian, my wife. That a lot of you guys, you've never seen her on the live streams. You will have seen her on Patreon. Some of the stuff that we've done. You've seen her at live events. But she is going to be doing October's Patreon group, which means there's going to be lots of reading, lots of astrology, and whatever she has in store. I honestly don't, I don't actually know what it is. But anyway, that's going to be coming up. I think it's October 22nd. Maybe the week before that. I should probably know the dates, right, you guys? But anyway, I will be talking more about that when the time comes. But yeah, let me know, you guys, if anyone uses the capsule phrases, if anyone uses those, let me know how they work for you. Cool. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. WV says, I see visions and vignettes fading in and out, sideways, running movies. Woo, that's a literal example of what I call kind of like the advanced third eye, which is a thing, you guys. When you are experiencing kind of more, what's the word I'm looking for? A more focused third eye energy within your mind's eye, people often experience it like living sort of movies or these running slideshows or these almost phantom-like scenes that glide through your internal realm. That's a really good example of what I call kind of real activated third eye energy. Other people, and this is a lot less common, but I think this is why a lot of people will kind of get confused, or they'll be like, my third eye doesn't work. It's just, it's not operational, or, like whatever the thing is. You will generally not perceive spiritual energy outside of the body, meaning for most people, and for some it is, that's the whole crazy thing, is there's always an exception, and there's sometimes many exceptions. But by and large, when the third eye activates, it's not as though, let's say theoretically you would look over there and say, yeah, there's this being or this ghost just chilling on my couch. It doesn't remove that sort of layer of vision for most people. What you will do is you will experience that within your internal space, meaning you might not perceive, and I know it's a cheesy example, but you might not see the ghost sitting on the couch, but within your third eye space, you would perceive that. And then likewise, it also gets weirder because it's not like, you would see a being sitting on the couch. Your body may interpret and perceive that energy and actually give you a different visual representation. In some cases, you guys, the third eye won't even be visual at all. And it will be a gateway that allows you to experience an energy through a different set of senses, which for some people can be it's like, what? It's like a mind fuck, because you're like, well, wait, how? You're saying it's visual and not visual, and you don't see it outside, you see it on the inside, but you could also see it on the outside. Like if you're really following, you're going to be like, how is that possible? And yet that's literally the nature of non-physical psychic energy, is that it will be all of those things and none of them. And for a lot of us, the trick is learning your own method of how to discern what those images and energies are telling you. The cool thing is, in some cases, you will be able to perceive exactly within your mind's eye what it is. And then in other cases, you will get distorted versions of it, and you'll have to learn to interpret it. But it is a fascinating thing. And like I said, the way that you will, or one of the things you can do, if you're one of the people that watches this and you're like, I don't know, I kind of sort of get what this guy's talking about, maybe it's true. And I say maybe because there's been a lot of people that I've worked with that are like, no, I totally see the stream of energy going right through the room. And here's the thing, there's times when I have seen streams of energy and beings and weird things literally standing right out in the in the daylight. But I will say, because I don't believe that I'm necessarily as visually aware as other people are, very, very rare. Most of the what I would call the sort of vision related work that I've done within the psychic realm, I would say 99.9% of it is within the internal viewing system, what we perceive internally. And anyway, I'm going on an epic third eye rant here today. Thanks for your comments, though, you guys. Somebody had a good one. Where did it go? Leland, within the first few seconds I wake up, I'm seeing objects, energies, beings, or patterns front and center of my view, usually on the ceiling. There you go, like a projection in certain areas, right? It'll sort of project itself in this weird way. And here's the thing, Leland, you sound like you have a really, really good like visual space. You will probably also see things out in the external world. That is a thing that a lot of people will also have. And so yeah, that is definitely real. It's definitely real. What's up, Sin? Speaking of ghosts, is it bad to talk to them? I had some activity last week with one. I will give you my experience with kind of non-living people or ghosts or just previously incarnated humans on a deliberate conscious level is pretty low. And I would say if there is an area within what I do as a professional psychic that I don't necessarily feel as aware as other people, it's usually within like the perception of people that have passed on. Now, my wife Nora is like brilliant, oh God, like brilliant at connecting with those energies. To the extent that I have felt jealous at times where I'm like, damn, I didn't feel any of that, So, maybe she'll come on one of these lives one day and talk about it. But I will tell you my opinion and experience. And I believe that if you are able to perceive that energy and you perceive that there's a dialogue or there's an exchange of information, I would look at the emotional quality. How did you feel about it? Maybe not even so much as what the content of that exchange was, but what was the energy around it? Was there an after effect? Was there a difficult emotion? Was there a mental image? Did you feel as though you carried any of the energy or the thought forms or the emotions from that interaction forward? I tend to look at the after effects or the byproduct of whatever that interaction is to identify to me if it was something good or if it was something bad, or you know what I mean? And I would also say, if you're even here in this moment on this live stream, this is probably a legitimate talent that you have that you're identifying. And I believe that if you're at the stage of your human journey where, oh boy, and the wind's really kicking up. So pray for my internet signal, guys, and the power. I think if you're at the stage of your journey where you feel that those beings or energies are connecting with you, it's gonna, in my opinion, and who knows, I'm wrong all the time, but in my opinion, it'll be because there's a purpose. There's something there for you to either unpack or experience or understand. And let's be real, every now and then, and it's just our mind doing things, trying to communicate with us. Sometimes it's the higher self presenting energy or information or emotions through a filter that we would have needed to perceive it through. Otherwise, we couldn't have received it. So anyway, not to go on a weird one with that, Sin, but I would say talk to those energies, see how you feel about it. They'll tell you, I think, whether it's good or anyway, whether it's something to avoid. But thanks for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Just gonna roll through your guys' comments real quick. I agree. Liz White Swan says they're probably coming to you for assistance to cross over. I agree. They probably are. They probably are. We're at the stage of the human journey. Hell, I was even saying it a little while ago. There's things, and we're going to be called to step up in certain areas, or we're going to be given opportunities for massive timeline shifts. And it could be in a number of areas of your life. I would like to think that because we're here in this now moment, and the focus of the energy that we create on this channel is about intuition and multidimensionality. I would like to think that that would be one of the timelines that you're stepping into. But we are also literally at the stage on Earth where if you have a psychic ability, and that is pretty much literally everyone that has a soul, you can develop it in a way that I just will blow your mind. For those that are ready to put in the work, we're at the stage in the human journey where that is available. And it's not that it was not available before. It's not that, it couldn't have been done before, but on a collective level, you guys have noticed these sort of ebbs and flows and rising and falling of energy. And, people were talking about it back in 2015 and, 16. And, even long before that, we're entering a golden age, this sort of Renaissance era of spiritual information, and kind of the realization of the ways in which science and spirituality kind of join together. That'll be seen by people on a mass level later on in our life cycle. But right now we're at the stage where a lot of people are having, rightfully so and authentically so, these moments where they're like, whoa, I can actually do this. I'm perceiving this thing. And you realize there's a whole other world behind it. And so anyway, if you're one of the people that needed to hear that, you're definitely psychic. You definitely are. My God. Anyway, we'll be going on and on for a little while. Thanks for working with our strange ranting energy here today, you guys. And let me know if you have any other questions. Let me know if there's any other questions. We're just going to scroll through the chat really quick here. I will say, I don't know, maybe it comes through on the mic. Let me know if it does. But the wind is definitely of epic proportions now here we're in Riverview, Florida. Here in Riverview, Florida, the wind is in epic proportions. Thank you. Thanks, Liz White Swan. You're very, very tuned in. You successfully reminded me of the stuff I was going to talk about. And so maybe because maybe you're also one of these people that has been having it. But I am going to talk about a dream that I had, I think it was 2 days ago now. And it's weird because you guys, my real analytical people, would sort of hear me go, well, it's funny because you were just talking about how 2 days ago you started noticing all kinds of third eye activity. I'm now in this moment realizing maybe there's a correlation, but I think this was exactly 2 nights ago. I had a very interesting dream in which, well, I'll have to kind of describe the sort of bedroom that we live in. It'll make sense when I go through the dream story. We have one of those beds that's like basically right on the floor. It's not like raised up. It's like a really low, low down to the ground bed. And so I was just laying there in bed a couple nights ago, and within the dream space, I had one of those moments where it's like you're sort of both in and out of the body, and you're experiencing something that's out of the body, but you're in both. So you're aware of the now here, this moment, and you're also aware of something that's taking place. And what I perceived was that I was able to see out of the corner of my eye, my right eye, when I was laying in the bed, that there was something, it was like scurrying across the bedroom floor. And well, it was coming directly toward us. And here's the crazy thing. In this moment, what I perceived was an entity. And I'll describe it. And, some of you would hear it and go, well, that makes sense. Don't you work with those energies? Isn't that what you talk about all the time? Yes, it is. Definitely. But it is definitely not something that enters my dream space. It's just not. They don't roll in there. I don't perceive them visually within the dream space. I'm not one of those people that has dreams where there's beings coming after me and I'm fighting demons or insectoids. Nothing like that. But I'm laying there and I'm in and out of the dream state, and I see something scurrying across the floor. If I was to describe the size of it, I would maybe not more than a foot. What it was, and we're going to all experiment with this together. If you guys want to watch the left eye, it's a portal for telepathy. So you're going to get a little bit of your own version of what I call an internal slideshow, meaning you'll receive just a different layer of being able to perceive the visual elements of what I'm talking about. But I've had a day or so to sit with how I was going to describe this to you guys or to people in general. And that's because it's very, very difficult to describe because it's not really within the human lexicon. But try to imagine a semi see-through, like a transparent shrimp-like being, many, many little legs, but also with a tail very much like a scorpion. So it's like the mixture between a squid or between a shrimp and a scorpion and a little bit like a cockroach. And I say cockroach from the perspective that from what I could perceive of its body, it almost had like sort of segmented plates, or what I call segmented plates or body sections, kind of like a cockroach. So it was like it had this segmented body, and it was like a mixture between a weird, creepy shrimp being and a literal scorpion. And it was running across the floor. And for some reason, in that state, I was made aware of it. And it's not like I did anything at all because I didn't, but I turned my head and was able to perceive it right as it was running toward this bed that we were laying on. And it actually diverted its course and it ran across the room. And this is why this is so silly and weird, but it hid underneath this t-shirt that was kind of, you know, how you'll just throw your clothes on the floor here and there. And it would like literally scurried right underneath this t-shirt that was sort of wadded up on the floor. And I was able to look and I could literally see what I call like the face of this being. And it wasn't really a face. It was literally like a shrimp face. It had little kind of like little like nodules and little antennas sticking out of it. And the body, this is what the part that kind of freaked me out about it, because the body of it was one that I could tell. And for those of you guys that have had weird dreams like this, there's certain things that you will kind of know in the sort of perceiving of something that wasn't said, meaning you'll kind of look at a thing and you'll just know something about it. When I looked at this being, I knew that it was not physical. And I knew that there was no way that I could go over there and sort of step on it and crush it. I knew, I could just tell. I'm like, there's nothing that I will be able to do to it here. There's no way for me to kind of destroy it. And the good news is it just disappeared. It was not a thing that I had an interaction with, but what I perceived within that moment was the function of it. Well, maybe not the function. I was able to perceive what it was designed to do. And I say design because having had a day or so to look at that energy and to kind of view it and look back on it, I feel that it may have been, if it was representative of an actual interaction within the astral space, I believe that it could be representative of a form of either kind of like a drone or semi-sentient kind of parasitic technology. So what I was able to perceive of that kind of weird scorpion shrimp-like being thing was that it would actually attach to the back of your head. And it had this thing where it would put its little tendrils around the back of your head, and it would put something right in the very back of your head, and it would attach onto your spinal column, and it would just sort of feed on your life energy or your vital energy or whatever it was. I was able to perceive that it wasn't one of those things that, you know, takes over your consciousness like some real being. It wasn't like some form of a, you know, like a demonic energy that's going to control you. It was like a feeding, I would call a sort of technological form of astral parasite that, based on what I could perceive of it, had the ability to grab onto someone's spinal column or, you know, the governing vessel, if you want to go into the meridian body, and siphon energy out. And so very, 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 very fascinating thing. Lo and behold, a couple people have been talking about weird dreams and similar things. I haven't been looking at your comments while I've been telling this, but I'm gonna scroll through here. And yeah, it is definitely a wild thing. And so I think the reason why that bears mentioning, like I said, is because even as a professional that works with what I would call non-physical energies, I do not perceive them entering my space. It is not a thing where I'm like, oh, there's this entity, you know, there's all kinds of entities in my house. And the wild thing is I have worked with and been made aware of other spiritual practitioners that are constantly interacting with them, and they've got, we have all these entities around us. And who knows, my perception might not be what I believe it is, but I do not perceive or feel the emotional, what I call like the emotional or energetic casualty of having a dense, energetic space. I just don't. I could always be wrong. And I think there's things that we don't perceive for all of us. But I think, like the presence of those sort of energies has just not been something that has been around me very much lately. And so I'm grateful that I was able to notice that thing came in, or even if that was what we call a simulated experience in the astral realm. Which the wild thing is, you guys, some of your dreams, it's not like every single dream is not a journey into the astral realm. There are states of like simulated energies and sort of actions and experiences that we will also go through within our own internalized energy bubble. Some people believe that every single dream is a journey into the astral realm. I think every single dream is a moving into your astral body, where you will have certain experiences that are very non-physical, and you could go all over the, the galaxy or the universe. Other people, you'll be in a little bit more of a contained space. And, so whether it was within, a contained internal simulated environment, or if it was out there in the astral realm, I'm grateful that it went away. Whatever it was almost like the mission failed or something, and it just kind of a little, not to make it cheesier, guys, but a little bit like in the video games, when you kill one of the enemies, insert any game really, and after a few moments it just disintegrates, like one of those things. It was like when I perceived it go underneath this wadded up t-shirt, I sat there looking at it going, man, there's nothing I can do. I don't know what we're going to do about that thing. And then it just went almost like digitally. Well, maybe not digitally. I don't want to add any unneeded descriptors to it, but it definitely kind of just disintegrated into something. And so I would call it, if that was a situation that was meant to attack or attach my energy, it feels like it definitely failed. And so it also makes one wonder, what other times have we gone through such things and not been able to perceive them? Not to say that it happens all the time. I'm not one of those people that says that, every interaction is with some form of an entity, or I am also not one of those people that thinks we need to be constantly shielding our energy and putting up all kinds of protections. In fact, I will be honest, I do not do any form of direct energy shielding. It's not a thing that I do, and be real, it's not even a concept that enters my mind. What I do though, because I should be very, very specific, while I do not do any form of deliberate shielding, I do Qigong every day, pretty much. At this stage of my life, or at least or at least in the year of 2022, I don't know that there's been hardly any days where I have not done Qigong, at least for a few moments, to like keep the energy flowing within my body. And so I believe if you're a person that does Qigong every day, you will come to a stage in which you will not be in this fight or flight of energetic battle. It will literally, I wouldn't say it ends, but it will help you change and moderate your perception of tense energies and how you respond to them. And sometimes I think it's a cheesy description, but you know how people that are really good at martial arts, which I am not, but you can just deflect, like whatever's coming in, you can just completely deflect it. Qigong allows us to do that internally with non-physical energy. And so anyway, we're going on a lot of ranting here today. What's up, Tim Williams? Good to see you. Thanks for rolling through. Debini 1111. What's going on? Sounds very similar to something I saw, not in a dreamscape, but it was more like a cross between a spider and a tribble. Whoa, like the tribbles from Star Trek. Damn. I feel you on that. And I will also say there are many forms of astral spiders. For some people, that sounds like a creepy thing. They're not like necessarily evil or parasitic energies, just like the spiders in our world. Most of them don't even want to be anywhere near you. You know what I mean? That's why they run away, But there are definitely some astral spiders. And they some of them are technological. There's many forms of those energies that we'll encounter out there. I'm going to be real. Some of them are not too good. Some of them will show up if you are a person that experiences what we would call internal manifestation of like say spiders or infestational insects or energy that feels like an infestation of something, in most cases that's a good sign that your energetic environment may be just what I would call like tainted or dirty, or in some form of extreme imbalance. It won't necessarily mean that you yourself and your energy field is in some way, just depleted, although it will rapidly deplete your energy field. It's not like necessarily reflective of the person, meaning that you could be a very strong, highly vibrational, really, energetically clean person, and you could walk into a really shitty environment. And if you stay there long enough, it's like the energy will kind of affect you. And one of the things we've seen, or I've seen with clients and also other people have talked about, is like the spiders, like the sometimes like cockroach energies, people will perceive those. I did have a number of experiences, I would say like around like 2017, 18, with like forms of what felt like this sounds so cheesy for some people, astral fleas, which sounds cheesy, but there's people out there, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like all kinds of weird little invisible, non-physical bites that will happen on your body. And that's a really good example of when you're in just a really unbalanced kind of physical environment that's very unclean. You will experience things like that. And so anyway, if you get a lot of astral spiders, clear the space around your house. That in some cases that'll do it. In other cases, understand that if you do have a lot of insect activity that you would perceive as non-physical, it's not necessarily always something to get freaked out about. Just like, the spiders out in your yard, like they're not coming, like I just said, they're usually not coming after you, but just use your awareness, because man, you never know. A weird shrimp, what was it? Scorpion being might show up in your dream space. And yeah, anyway, thanks for hearing that story, you guys. It's one of those ones that I think tells you that it was more than just a dream in how long it hangs out, how long it remains within your field of internal view or on your mind. Because I know a lot of you guys, you'll have a weird thing in your dream space and you're like, damn, that was crazy, and you'll acknowledge it and it just passes, and then some things you're like, you will remember certain occurrences in your dreams, even if it wasn't traumatic, you'll remember them for years, and you'll be like, man, yeah, once I had a dream of this or that. And in my opinion, those are the ones that we look for that tell us, well, that was a lot more than just a remembrance of your astral body. And so, but anyway, thanks, Lakeside Laura. I hope dinner goes well. What's up, Aurora Diamond Heart? Qigong primes you for subtle energy awareness. That's a very, very good way of saying it. Literally true. Totally free. Anyone can do it. Literally. But what's up, Sin? Totally. When I was alcoholic, I would see a golem-like being crawl out of my hiding bottles. I would pray and it would leave. The last time it said, "You're not worth it." Man, thanks for talking about that. As a person that has also experienced extreme addiction in this life, I too have been literally face to face, right there across the room, with shadow beings and energies that I think were led into my space purely through drugs, like just straight up through the energy that kind of opened up in my life when those things were entered. And there were days just like you were saying. It's like you will even have an interaction with them. And I would even say I guess since we're in weird story time today, in 2008, I lived in a just shockingly haunted house. And it was truly, you guys, one of those houses. This is in San Diego, California. If anyone wants to get a cool kind of mental image of it, in San Diego, California, in a neighborhood called Barrio Logan. So if anyone out there is familiar with San Diego, you're going to be all, oh, Barrio Logan, okay. But it was one of those houses that's, really, really big, totally like a movie. It's like, it's so big, it's so nice. Why is it so cheap? Really? You tell me I can rent this house for, I don't know, it was like $1,000 or something for like 4 bedrooms and like even a mini just a shocking amount of space. And you're like, really? That's it? And I remember them saying everybody moves, and we were like, oh, that's okay. We're gonna just paint it. We're gonna make it beautiful. And we did. I moved in at the time, with my partner at the time. And yeah, we definitely, we really improved it. We painted it. It was really cheap. So, we were able to do all kinds of stuff, and the owner, they didn't care. But oh man, I would say within 90 days of moving in there, things just got weird. And what do I mean by weird? This was at a stage of my life, you guys, before I was involved in anything spiritual, before I had any idea of what I was going to be doing these days in 2022 and since 2017. This was 2008, and it was a period of just incredible uncertainty. I wouldn't call it a period of incredible toxicity. I wouldn't call it a period of chaos. It was a stage of my life where actually things were going pretty good. Those stages of your human life where you're just employed and you're doing life and things aren't chaotic. But man, as soon as we entered that space, it was like all of the old demons within my world suddenly showed up. And by demons, there was many of them over the life cycle, but literally every form of wound or addiction or difficulty that could have been manifested showed up in my life. It showed up in my partner's life, and even my son at the time, who I was in a relationship where, or at the stage of my relationship with his mother, we were sort of sharing him back and forth, and we were doing the shared custody. There we go. For some reason, I couldn't say that word. Certain words that start with certain letters is hard for me to enunciate at times. It's like a holdover from a weird stutter thing I had earlier. But at that stage of the journey, I kind of had partial custody of my son, and so he was over, like the typical custody thing, like every other week for a few days. And as soon as he came in there as well, at 4 years old, he was like, Daddy, there's a man over there. There's this over there. There's a monster right there. And he would freak out about it. And, it was totally that stage of your human journey where you're like, it's okay, buddy. It's just your mind. It's just this. But man, it was traumatic for him at age 4. And I remember going, wow, I wonder what's wrong. Those moments where you're like, surely it couldn't actually be something. But man, I would say we lived in that house for just about 1 year. And within 6 months of moving, I would say, yeah, within about 6 to 8 months of moving in there, our relationship had come to a stage where it was completely falling apart. My partner at the time moved into another apartment. I started getting a really weird sickness. I got this weird liver thing that came back. Like every single thing went wrong in my life, all the way down to drama at work. I mean, it was just like the classic telltale like movie scenario. And in the midst of all that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start doing drugs and drinking, which was a thing that I hadn't done for years. It wasn't like I was, religiously sober, but it was just, it just wasn't a big factor in my life. And man, as soon as we got in there, it was like all of that stuff turned on, and it sort of coalesced. I would say, I want to say right around, actually probably around this time of the year in 2008, before we left that house and moved to, oddly enough, the one behind it, literally just the house behind it. But it coalesced with those moments where, I mean, I was literally face to face with two, what I would call shadow beings that would sort of inhabit and pass through what we would call like the dining room area of this house. And it was one of those moments where I was sitting there on the couch, like just completely out of my mind, just wasted, and like looking up and watching these beings come right over to me in this weird dark mass in front of my face. And they would move back and forth, and they would walk in and out of the room. And it was like I would be paralyzed by it. And it was like there was this acknowledgement. It was like I knew they were there. They knew that I was there. They knew that I couldn't do anything about it. It was just one of those stages of your life where you will perceive it and see it, and then later on you're like, man, I don't even know, was that even real? Oh, that was crazy. I was totally tripping. I was tripping out. I saw some crazy shit. But lo and behold, just after just about a year of it, it wasn't one of those things where, I moved because the house was haunted. I moved because I just couldn't afford to live there. And it was like, well, I could move to that little apartment back there instead. And it was wild, you guys, because, just like in all these haunted house movies, literally, as soon as we moved out of that house, I got back together in the relationship we were in. My job scenario ironed out. Literally, I stopped drinking, and here's the thing, for people that knew me, they're like, whoa, you drink? Because I have never been an alcohol related person. I did have, lots of other addictive events with other things, but alcohol was never a factor for me. It was just not a thing. I just didn't think of it. But, suddenly I was like, well, suddenly I hated alcohol again. It was literally like a switch turned off in my life. And yeah, man, haunted house, San Diego, California, 2008. It's funny because I think right after I left that house, the owner gave it to his children, his adult children, and his son moved in there. And we didn't stick around too long. We ended up buying a house like a few months later on, and a whole other chapter of our life started. But I remember going back by that place a number of times, and you could see that it was just in disrepair, little by little, falling apart. You could see that the people that were living there were still going through the same things. And it was just wild. Anyway, wild experience of the ways in which spiritual energy will influence the darkness within us. It's an interesting thing. Anyway, Aurora Diamondheart said, I've heard stuttering is from thinking faster than we can communicate. I do believe it is. I think it's also just an indicator of a developing or activating or sometimes a little bit clogged up throat chakra. But definitely, I definitely agree with that. It's an interesting thing. It is an interesting thing. Leland says, land that's consumed with portals is always very chaotic to live in. You know what's funny, Leland? Thank you for mentioning that. I would say about a year after we moved out of there, I had one of the initial experiences in my adult life with a psychic, meaning that there was a woman who had worked as a professional psychic that was part of the extended family of my wife at the time. And for some reason, I mean, she didn't even live in the state with us, but shortly after we moved out of there, we just had an occasion came about where we actually met physically. And, I just, for some reason, I went out on a limb at that stage of my life, and I told her a couple of things that I had been thinking of. And she kind of indicated that there was somewhat of a talent. And a couple weeks later, she actually took me out to this park. And it was one of those moments. I think a lot of you guys have had moments like this where you're like, why is this older person interested in me, type of a thing. It was like, what does she want from me? And so we just went out to this park and we sat there for about 4 hours, and she just talked to me all about, psychic energy and portals, very much what we do on this live stream right now. But this was so many years before any of these things ever showed up in my life. It was a trip to see the way the seeds were being planted by people at earlier stages, and the ways in which I had no idea that that's what was going on. I didn't realize that she was setting me up, saying, hey, you're going to experience this and this and this later in the future. But one of the things she had done, which is what your comment reminded me of, Leland, one of the things she had done was remote view the house that we had lived in, because that was kind of the starting point of me kind of linking up with this older lady. Was that, we were talking about like, hey, we had this experience and that experience, and she ended up remote viewing the house. And that was the first time that I had actually heard of portals existing within our physical space. She was the first person that ever educated me about the portals. And, at that time, she claimed that she was working to close them. Who knows if that ever happened, if it did, but it was just interesting to see the little synchronistic statements and phrases and pieces of information that came from those early days experiences. But it's weird. I feel like most of us on some level have had weird foreshadowing events as children that or just in much earlier stages of your life. Maybe spiritually I was in much more of an infant phase at that stage, but maybe we are for the entirety of the life. But I was definitely in a completely different stage of maturity. There we go. That was a hard word to say. But yeah, I think everyone here has had some strange foreshadowing. If you have been through a crazy, chaotic awakening journey, if you have been just through crazy stuff, look back on your on your life and see if you can find any foreshadowing events. I'll bet you they're there. What's up, Jen Armstrong? Good to see you. Shadow beings used to pull me out of my body and drag me down the hall. It stopped me when I no longer felt fear and said, you have no control over me. That will do it at times. You will claim control and ownership of your personal space. For a lot of people, that's like that's the one thing. When they finally truly command their energy, things will stop. They definitely will stop. That is a good thing. I will also be real, because some people, nowadays they're like, don't do that. You can also invoke the name of Jesus. That is absolutely has a massive effect. It doesn't always, though. That's the crazy thing. It won't have an effect with every single type of energy that you encounter, but you can definitely invoke energies. I would say, claim your personal space, invoke whoever you need to invoke. Whatever it is, it's about, pulling the control back into your body and into your kind of energy field. But anyway, thanks for mentioning that. Thanks for mentioning that. Good to see you guys. What's up, Alan Conrad? Saw a shadow being in my bedroom when I was a kid. I was told it was yeah, right? Everyone, it's like, that's definitely not real. I'll be honest, Alan, that's what I was saying to my son at age 4. And I was like, oh, buddy, there's definitely not an old man that comes out of that wall every night. There's definitely not. That's just in your mind. But every night it was like, the old man, there's an old man. And I'm like, oh, and so it definitely happens. It's definitely there. There was some sort of there was like an old man energy that was rolling through that house. And, so the awkward thing is I didn't believe him either at the time. I think that's par for the course. Nowadays, though, we definitely do. It's like that was sort of our early stage education into some forms of spiritual warfare, I think, which is how it is for a lot of us. A lot of us that end up working with those energies later on. The sort of gateway to the understanding them is that a lot of us had to have our ass kicked by them at other stages of the life, and then you'll hear people out there saying, well, there are actually no negative energies. Those are all things that you just, created within your internal space. In fact, there are no actual demons. In fact, the sort of negative energy deniers or the negative manifestation deniers, that approach can work for some people for a while. Whew. As we officially enter hurricane stage, I don't know if you guys can hear that wind out there, but that'll work for some people for a while. But I think inevitably most of us on the earth plane who really truly connect and strive toward connecting with non-physical energies and just opening up spiritually, I think that part of our standard issue experience on the earth plane is to have that realization that it is a literal realm of duality, and that there is no entrance into this human realm without being exposed to literal evil, like, the darkest of the dark and the lightest of the light. I think we come to the human experience to have that literal very experience. And so, you can do pretty well by denying, the existence of certain things, but, they're definitely not denying the existence of you. And I think that people that maintain that outlook, you're going to be overlooking not only a lot of opportunities for growth and catalysts for change, but you're also going to be overlooking a lot of kind of our own healing that we need to go through. Because I think, at least I'll speak for myself, most of the extreme darkness that I've encountered in this life has been born or related to or and somehow fed by my own. And, that goes without saying for a lot of us. It goes without saying. But that said, the nature of the earth plane is that it is home to not only the physical beings who are good and bad, right and wrong, beautiful, strange, and evil, but that the non-physical world is definitely, they're definitely right here. But anyway, as I lose my train of thought noticing your comments, thanks you guys. Thanks for hanging out. What's up, that dude? Dude, what's going on? I'm not sure if it was a shadow being, but I would have something on top of me while mid-trance with a blanket over the top of my eyes. I still remember their cold breath on me. Man, I got to tell you, I've worked with a lot of people that have had those experiences. sleep paralysis and the perception of astral attack, or what some people even still talk about, the old hag or some being or some energy that will paralyze you and pull life force out. That is a thing that will happen in some cases. It can be a thing that we will create in our internal space. In other cases, like I just said, it's literally a real thing that can happen. And what I have noticed is that the solution for it is different for each person. Some people will be called to, like someone said earlier, take ownership over their personal space. Other people will be called to heal things emotionally. Other people will be called to realize that part of their journey in this human life is that they're going to be subjected to such things, and that for some people it's a chapter that will come and go. I think for each of us it's a little bit of a different thing, but that is a real experience, man. I feel you on that. It is definitely a real thing. There was one particular, well, here, yeah, I'll just say it. Since we're doing a lot of crazy stories here today, I am a person that I don't believe I have ever had what I can recall real sleep paralysis. But there was a stage in which I was momentarily paralyzed within the sleep state 2 times in a row. And I won't go into the whole story here today because it's a really, really long one, and it's like a can of worms. But in fact, you guys can remind me to talk about this later on. But I have had an encounter with I shouldn't say what I believe, what I know to be a actual living vampire, like a person whose energy and their being and just their very makeup is one of vampirism, of siphoning energy, of drawing it, and sort of either knowingly or unknowingly pulling that energy from other people. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I had an experience with a person there who was literally a vampire. And while those words were never mentioned, it was illustrated and talked about and very, very out in the open through the conversations I had with this person, that they were extremely aware that there was something incredibly unusual and very, I would even say dark. A lot of her statements to me were things like, not that many people can handle who I am. Not that many people can handle my energy. You have to be really strong to be able to handle me. And it's funny because I didn't really consider myself to be that at the time. In fact, I remember thinking, like, why are you interested in me? But I was approached by what I believe to be and know to be an actual sentient living human vampire in, I would say, late 2017. And I had a number of experiences with that person. I think it's back. Let me know if you guys can hear anything. We're gonna give it a few moments. Let me know if we are back. Cool. Well, we made it back. All right. So hold on, everybody. If you can still hear me, we did lose our internet here. There is like, dude, there is actually major, there is major storm activity. I'm on my phone's hotspot, And so I've got about 20% power on that side, but we're gonna try to get through the psychic vampire story. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually gonna work. But anyway, cool. I see some 5 5s. Welcome back. Okay, good. Everybody cross your fingers and say a little prayer out there that, the internet signal can last for a little bit longer. And thank you for hanging around. That was an epically quick return. But anyway, before we lose the internet, the reason why I'm going on and on about the psychic vampire story is because, I don't know how far you guys got with that, but the last thing I was talking about was that I was led to meet this person through them coming to me for a reading in 2017, and this person actually wanted to learn the techniques that I was using to clear energy at the time. And after I would say after a very short period of time, it was incredibly apparent that there was something very strange about this person. They were incredibly successful. They lived in this like $10,000 a month apartment in Los Angeles. They had pictures of all of these men on their wall that they had been linked to, all these famous people and like people that they had written scripts for or something. And man, it was a bizarre scene. But that's really not the point of the story. After spending some time with this person, and right up to the very last day that I actually ever was in contact, in fact, the very last day that I was ever in contact with this person, I woke up in their home at about 4 a.m. in the morning, or maybe just in the wee hours of the morning. And I awoke to a moment in which I could not move my body, but I was aware and I was awake. And I was conscious that I was very much awake and I couldn't move. I was able to move my eyes and I was able to look and see that on the left corner of the room, and for those of you guys that want to follow on with the internal slideshow, you'll perceive a very nice upper floor Los Angeles apartment. But what I perceived in there was that coming from the back left corner of the room, meaning to my left over in the far corner, I could see what appeared to be a being in some form of a robe. Now, I say a being because I could not see a face. There was no skin. There was no body. It's not like I could tell there was an identity. What I perceived was like a flowing robe moving around the side of the bed and coming over to where I was laying on the right side of my body. I felt it, I watched it, and I was unable to move. And what I perceived was there was a hand that went inside, which is always weird to talk about this. A non-physical hand entered my body at the right side of my rib cage. And it was the sensation, or the way I describe, or the way I imagine it comes to me now, is kind of like when a hand will go into something and sort of root around. Like you'll put your hands into like the dirt or mud and you're like trying to squiggle around and find something. And I felt this hand go into the side of my body, and this incredible, it was like guttural, visceral fear, and just like no, just that internal moment where you're like, no. And here's the wild thing. I was able to slide out. Like I could slide out from the side. In that moment, I was able to slide out and stand up, and instantly everything was gone. And and honestly, at that stage in my life, that was the first time that I had ever had any experience like that. As a person that had been encountered all kinds of weird beings and weird beings and entities in the internal space, I had never had such a physically crazy experience. And I was literally held down in my body. And so I got up. I remember I kind of walked through the apartment a little bit and I was like, what the hell? This is crazy. And just within a few moments, it was like that thing where you literally convince yourself it wasn't real. Although I knew it was, but I was like, whoa, that was wild. Okay, maybe I should go lay down. And I went and laid down back in that bed. And in hindsight now, it was interesting because it was like I fell asleep, like boom, right away. It was like I felt myself go, oh, it's okay, boom, instantly asleep. And I do not know if it was an hour. I don't know if it was 10 seconds. Well, I do know it was a bit later because the sun was coming up. But it felt like immediately after that, it started again instantly. And this time I popped up immediately. It's like I felt the pressure and my body sink down. I could feel something start. It felt like feathers at first, almost like something was like touching the skin, and then I popped up instantly. And at that point, it was like I was definitely awake and I was talking, and I was like, "Oh my God, what the hell?" Or like whatever we say. And it was literally straight up sleep paralysis and having to kind of pull myself out of the grasp of some sort of this robed being. And the wild thing is, when this person that was there woke up, and I explained what it was, they actually had this crazy rage attack and claimed that I had summoned it and brought it into their life, into their world through the work that I was doing with all these other entities. That I was I was actually the one that caused it and brought it in there. And anyway, needless to say, and one day, if you guys remind me, I'll tell you the rest of that story. Needless to say, that was, well, it wasn't the last time I ever saw that person. It was the second to last time, but it was the first time in my human life where I had the experience of being forcefully, detained or held down, or literally, it felt like, for those of you guys that have played with magnets recently, and you notice how there's the other side of the magnet pushes, but it's not a pushing that is unlimited. There's a limit to the strength. And when I look back on that, it was like, it felt like a magnet that was pushing me down. And just like with other magnets, when you move to the side, it'll kind of like expel it or press it with the magnetic force will kind of, at a certain stage, when you get to the outside of the magnetic field, it will then repel. And so it was almost like I was able to move through whatever the energy was and pull out of it. Here's the thing, maybe that's happened to me at other times and I was unaware of what it was, but that was the first time I was consciously aware. And so anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. We're having the epic storm story time here at the School of Multidimensional Intuition. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Oh, thanks, Liz White Swan. Good comment. Feels like a contractual encounter, knowing this woman in lifetime was meant to be for your growth. I actually agree. It's not like it was all horrible. It was a truly educational experience. Truly educational. I learned so much. From that. We will definitely talk about that on a later live stream. But it was a crazy experience. So watch out, you guys. There are real conscious vampires. That is literally a real thing. I will tell you one fragment of the after story of my encounter with this vampire. Needless to say, after some weird events after that, we didn't talk anymore. Total, just kind of exit each other's lives. And I would say maybe about a year later, I was still at the same store that I worked at. It was right before I left working that store. And there was one night where I was, we were closed up and I was walking out, we lock up the door and everyone goes home. And there was this, semi, kind of cool kid restaurant right next door to the shop that I worked at. And as I was leaving the store, I was walking out to the corner and I saw sitting inside the restaurant was that literal woman with another young guy. And it was weird because it was that moment where you look at them and you're like, whoa, he kind of looks like me a little bit. Huh. And you realize that it was like you were literally the prey. You were the mark. It was like you fit a certain category. I looked a certain way. I was in this place at this time. You know what I mean? And I was walking by going, oh, what? And so who knows? Who knows what happened to that guy? Who knows what happened? But an interesting occurrence nonetheless. Whoa, live from San Diego, Alan Conrad. The clouds over San Diego shaped into a mouse right now. I don't know if you were here earlier, Alan Conrad, but I was telling everybody about a haunted house I used to live in down in Barrio Logan. So if you're in San Diego, you're definitely gonna know Barrio Logan, which nowadays is kind of a nice neighborhood. It's pretty chill now, but back in 2008, it was still kind of a, I would call it a semi-questionable area, but it really wasn't. It was super chill. It was just, Barrio Logan. But anyway, totally. What's up, Libby V? I grew up in a haunted house and grandparents next door haunted too, but felt safe at the next house, which was great grandma's. I saw so many shadow figures. Definitely, definitely. That is a real thing. That is a real thing. 3 glowing eyes in the closet. I always think it's strange how kids will see things in the closet, and yet when you look at kind of where portal activity takes place in people's houses, why is it in closets? I mean, it's not always in closets. It's not like that's the number one place, but you will tend to find, by and large, if there is some form of portal activity in people's homes, closets, mirrors, fireplaces, corridors, like hallways, especially the very door jamb, the area. If you have like high traffic areas in certain homes, there can be a portal effect through that. It's like other energies will come in and out. But yeah, number of other places. There was another one that I was forgetting. But yeah, mirrors, closets, fireplaces, hallways. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to remember the other ones in there. There are a number of other criteria. Totally. Yeah, we made it back. Totally. We did have a quick internet stoppage there. Hopefully it won't happen too much. That's right. Totally. 619. Definitely. Now we are on the far coast over here in Tampa, Florida, which I guess if you want to get technical, you guys, it does kind of feel like a few areas in Florida. It's really just like the West Coast from a totally different mindset. It's like the same everything. It's a little bit like San Diego where we are, just a bit more rural and totally different people. I will be honest, though, it feels like the people in Florida are far easier to get along with than the people in Southern California. And I'm definitely not a California hater. I know a lot of people are, often talk about, the madness and, California and all that. I definitely don't hate it there. If it was not turning into some form of neo-fascist, techno-communist state, I would probably still live there because, you know what I mean? I thought it was a good place to live. Of course, very expensive, but anyway, thanks for hanging out, you guys. I'm going to real quickly check your comments. And then the original focus of this strange meeting here today was to do a few readings. And we're still going to do a couple readings. We're just going to do a few. But yeah, let's just roll through your comments. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Sounds like she was a host to a dark phantom master. Leland, you know what's wild? Dude, honestly, I'm being totally authentic. You are very, very tuned in. This person did have a near-death experience in which some form of just something similar to that. There was a contact, and I think a sort of contract that was made with that person in a near-death experience that they described that had initiated whatever that is. And so to me, it makes absolute sense. Makes absolute sense what you were saying. La Love a Girl says, wow, if you weren't drugged, that's crazy. During the sleep paralysis one, definitely not. Definitely not. In fact, I would say it was wild. That was at one of the most sober stages of my entire life. Not that it's not now. I went through big stretches of the human experience where I was like adamant, and maybe a little bit too adamantly sober, like just bitterly, angrily sober. Some of you guys out there will know what I mean, where you're just like, everything. It's just, there's like a weird bitterness that comes with a state of kind of unhealed sobriety. I was definitely that for a long time. Oh, Lord, you better believe it. But we're staying safe in the weather. Thank you for your comments, you guys. It is all good. How could you not have charged your phone? Well, I have like external chargers, luckily. So we have external chargers. It's just in the other room. Who knows? Maybe I'll go get it. Although my battery's hanging on. We're doing good. Thanks, you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I think we are. We're going to do a couple readings here really quick. Debini, I did. I actually do love California. I think the government there has turned really, really horrible. I don't like the way they are treating the Second Amendment. If you want to get technical, I think it's just, there's so many. Don't even get me started on the list of complaints in the California realm. Question: what are your thoughts on doppelgangers? Ooh, Lord, that's a good question. I believe that many of us will have on some level a set of, near twins, near doppelgangers. Does it mean that they're related? Does it mean that they're, like the antimatter version of us? No. But I think that there are only many faces and there are only so many variations, so many bloodlines. And what you're going to find is that inevitably there's going to be a number of people on the earth plane, and maybe there's not. Maybe that's not how it is for everyone. But I think there could very well be other versions of us. Now, could it be a doppelganger scenario where it's like there's the dark version and the light version? I also think that's pretty possible. I do believe it is. I don't know that I have encountered direct like doppelganger energy. I don't know that I've encountered like maybe a person's doppelganger where it's like that wasn't you. It was like the evil or the dark version of you. And I don't know that I've encountered that, but I do believe that it is an authentic and realistic occurrence that will have many variations and possibly many causes, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Totally. Yep. Thanks, you guys. We're gonna do some readings. Alan Conrad was the first one to say it, so we're gonna start with Alan Conrad. And I don't know, maybe you guys can hear it, but my Lord, it is definitely kicking up. So just in case we have one of those quick drops and my signal goes away, it'll be because either one, the phone battery died, or two, the cell phone service went out. Luckily the everything seems to be working. So I was just noticing my battery length there, and we're at, I think it's 18. We're at 18% battery life, so we got a little while. Anyway, if you're watching us, please do share this video. If you have not clicked like, you can really help me by doing it. We've got a lot more subscribers on this channel recently, so help me. You can help by clicking like and sharing this video. And yeah, we're going to start out with Alan Conrad. Here we go. We're going to try to make them quick. I always say that. But here we go. 3, 2, 1. Alan Conrad. Boom. Alan Conrad, congratulations. You have received the Empress. Who is the Empress? What is her role? This is the primary feminine controller in the world of tarot. She's a feminine authority figure. She is also what we would call your mother's lineage, your feminine ancestry. She is the version of your mother, or how you perceive authoritarian or powerful energy in your life. She's the most powerful feminine energy there is. And that's both a cool thing and in some cases also a negative thing. So what would you do if you had this, if you were in a state of change or if you were in a state of growth? Well, first thing, one of the things we know about Emperor and Empress is that it's not only an energy that sort of comes in a thematic way, it's also a stage of your life. So if you're let's say if you're around the age 40 or past mark in your journey on Earth, you're in Emperor or Empress stage in your age range. And so what happens for people though when you would have this energy, let's say in a momentary experience like right now, you would be asked to take full ownership over who and what you are. You will be asked to fully develop, feel, and be made aware of the femininity and the power of femininity within you. If you were approaching this from a healing perspective, you would be working with the energy of your mother's lineage. You would be working with your relationship with mother energy in this life. And I would say understand when you have the Empress, it's not like all bad or not all good. It comes with both really cool things. On one hand, it can come to a stage in its life where it can start to develop its awareness of its control, meaning you will be aware of what you're in control of and you will be aware of what you're not in control of. And the way the Empress maintains control is a little bit different from the Emperor. The Empress maintains control in her world through creation, through birthing things, through producing something. You can see she's got sort of like I think it's a loom. I believe that's what they call it. But it's for creating or knitting or kind of, pulling many resources together and forming them into something new. And so people that have this energy need to create. The bad part about the Empress is that it can become controlling. It can become stagnated. You can come to a stage of your life where you will try to repeat certain things, meaning you might have been really good at certain things when you were younger, and you'll try to do it now. Not that you're old or young, but just at a different stage of your life, you'll have been really good in X, Y, and Z. And the Empress will come around again, and she'll be like, I'm going to do it again like I did in the old days. And it won't. It just doesn't work. That's just the problem with the Emperor and Empress. They have to learn how to reinvent themselves. And so when you say, well, how would I reinvent myself with Empress or Emperor energy? You have to create an updated version, meaning you have to update your appearances, your approaches, your mannerisms, the way you create, because she's a creator. The Emperor is more of a controller. Empress is more of a creator. And so she has to update her. It's like you're updating the software from the 1999 version to the 2023 version. It's like you're going to upgrade all of your elements. And so when you're able to upgrade and reinvent yourself, Emperor and Empress can hang around for years and constantly renew themselves. Every now and then they'll make it awkward, and it'll be really obvious that they're trying to hang on to their youth, or they're trying to hang on to energy from a different stage of their life, and they will have to allow things to pass. But Empress is a pretty good energy to have, as long as you're willing to remain in control and stay creative. And anyway, I hope I'm not ranting on that. Thanks, Alan Conrad. Thanks for hanging out. Let's do some more. Whoa. Put a bunch of emojis in the chat if you can hear these wild gusts of wind going on back there. It's getting pretty hurricane-esque out here. It's definitely flowing. Who do we have next? Let us see. Next up, we got Jen Armstrong. Thanks for hanging out, Jen, from the wilds of Australia. We're going to pull a card for Jen Armstrong. Hopefully you're still here. And I like to say this with the card pulls that we do on YouTube. A lot of times you'll be waiting for a reading, or you may be hoping that you are chosen. And, we can't choose everyone, but please, what you're going to hear in other people's cards are going to be energies that apply to you. One of the things that happens when we're addressing people over a social media stream like this is not only are we connecting with that person, but we're also addressing the group and the energies at large. So the reality is and I think at this stage there's about 50 people on the live stream right now. The reality is, even if you don't get chosen, you're going to get pieces of information, and you're going to get messages through what you hear here. Apply to yourself what feels right to you and throw the rest out. I say that very sincerely, because a lot of times I'll pull a card for somebody else, like we're going to do Jen Armstrong right now, and somebody else who's watching, you'll be like, oh my God, that feels like this thing in my life, and it feels like might have been talking to me, but oh no, it definitely wasn't, because that was for that person that he mentioned. It couldn't have anything to do with me. It does. This is the way non-local, non-physical, astral, collective energy works. You're going to realize that the cards that we pull for other people, in some cases, you're going to be like, oh my God, that's also for me. And so anyway, not to go on and on, but it's important to let that be said. Jen Armstrong, you have an occurrence that I see every now and then when I'm reading for people. And not that it's about you, so take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes I'll go to shuffle the cards and everything gets a little bit sticky, a little bit blocked up. Now, I'm not going to apply that to you, but if it was, and maybe anyone else that needs to receive this, when I see that energy, there's things that have not been said. There's things that might not have been expressed. Sometimes we'll have a little bit of energy kind of clogged up in a little bit of a way. It's not a sign of crisis. It's not a sign of negativity. It's sort of like just having too much in the energy of the moment and maybe needing a little bit of clarity. And so anyway, having said that, little bit of sticky energy, there might be some things that need to be expressed in your world or vocalized. But there we go. As soon as I said that, it opens up. Whoa. Sometimes it's me. Just so you know, you guys. Every now and then it's me. For Jen Armstrong and anyone else that needs to receive it, here we go. You're going to see it together. Boom. Jen Armstrong, you got the 10 of Pentacles. Who's a 10 of Pentacles? What does it mean when it might roll into one's life? Well, every now and then it's a really big deal, and sometimes it's a very little deal, but I'll describe it. It's the end of an era. It could also be the end of the week. But whatever it is, it's the coalescing and the completion of a certain process or a moment in your life that often involves energies from different generations, sometimes within a family network, sometimes within a community. Whatever it is, it's sometimes a graduation, sometimes an exit, but whatever happens, you will go through a doorway or a stage in your human experience that you will not come back from. And if you do come back, you won't be the same version of yourself. Even if it's just because you had something different for lunch, it will fundamentally close and start processes in your life. Whenever you guys see the tens in the world of multidimensional tarot, you know that there's going to be some form of a closing and an opening. And the type of 10 that you get tells you the quality of things that are ending for you right now. So when I say ending for you, just look at any of the closures, any of the tie-ups, any of the wrap-ups, or just things that are sealing themselves in your life. You have a really good version of that energy around you right now. If you're able to make decisions that bring finality, which sometimes is a little bit of a wild thing to say, but if you're able to make decisions that create finality and you have this energy around you, usually everyone wins. Everyone will get something out of it. 10 of Pentacles is what I would call the most lucrative or most abundant ending in the world of tarot. And so, in my opinion, it's a good thing to have. Every now and then it'll be melancholy. It can be a little bit emotional. You can realize in moments that you're spending with people where you're like, yeah, we probably aren't going to do this again, are we? Not that it's the melancholy version. Sometimes you're like, man, I'm definitely not doing this again. You know, you can have the good version of it, but those are certain things that you would think in your mind, or you'd be like, well, this is the last time we have to blink, whatever the blink is. Those things will come around with the tens. And so as I start kind of foaming at the mouth here wildly, thanks, Jen Armstrong. I hope that helps. I hope it means something in your world. Let's grab somebody else. Valerie Smith. We can pull a card for you. I hope you're still here, Valerie Smith. And if you're not, may this energy reach you regardless. And anyone else who needs to hear this, anyone else who needs to receive a card. As we kind of pray for the hurricane winds going on outside. Although I have to be real, it's not that I would necessarily be tuned into, certain storm fronts and weather systems. It's not like every professional psychic knows exactly what's going on with the weather. Some of us are very much more involved in other areas. I'm much more of a body systems and multidimensional energy stream kind of viewer and, practitioner, more so than a predictor of worldwide or just environmental events. But I will say, it doesn't feel like a cataclysmic hurricane, even though all the news reports are saying otherwise. And who knows, maybe it's just not cataclysmic in the little area that I'm in. So it might not be such a big deal for us. Maybe other people, and I pray they aren't, but other people might have a very different experience. And so, anyway, who was that? Valerie Smith. There we go. We're gonna pull a card for Valerie Smith. Sometimes it works out really well when I do that. We see the card together. Sometimes it's a bad idea, but we're going to keep rolling with it. Meaning that I don't have any preparation. You see the card as I see the card. I think that's fun because it's just like, boom, that's the energy that shows up. It's not necessarily cold, but it forces me to operate on, boom, this is this instantly. There's very little kind of peering into or analysis. We're taking things right as they come. But anyway, for Valerie Smith and anyone else that needs to receive this, here we go. Boom. Valerie Smith, you got an Ace of Swords. Which, right as I was saying, it's really, really good that I don't have a moment to look at these. But anyway, when you have the aces in your timeline, when you pull aces, let's say in a daily reading, let's say you just did a one card, multidimensional tarot pull like we're doing right here, and you got one of the aces. For most people, it can be a really, really big moment in your life in which it's time for you to recognize your cycles. Number one, there's cycles that will come around for each of us at certain stages of our human journey. Cycles of purpose, cycles of relationships, cycles of career, cycles of self-identity. This is your cycles of communication. How you are being received by the world, how the world is hearing you, the way you are interacting with the world. the way you're swinging your sword. What are your swords in the world of non-physical energy? They're the way you speak, the way you communicate, the expression on your face. They're even the clothes that you wear. They're the energy that you come in with. When you see a person and you get an impression of them, or you hear their voice and you get this idea, you're basically weighing or perceiving their sword based energy. And so swords are communications, physical and non-physical. And when you have this, Valerie Smith and anyone else, you're in what we would call a timeline shift opportunity, meaning that if you're willing to look at the cycles of communication and how you're being received both socially, and within your family and just in other areas of your life, if you're willing to look at your cycles, break your cycles, and dramatically alter how you're operating in the world as a social being, you can experience incredible change. Like, things can shift, and just situations in your life that you've been dealing with for years can fade away. Now, the cool thing is you won't have to deal with certain difficulties anymore, and you can bring yourself to a whole other stage in your life. But the awkward thing is that you begin new cycles, and you might have, sometimes new issues. You might have new problems. You could upgrade certain problems in your life. And so that's why when you have this, it's very important to embrace the way you swing your sword in this world. What do I mean when I say how you swing your sword? The way that you communicate, your tone of voice, what you're saying, the way you send yourself out to the world in all manners. These are your swords. And so anyway, not to go on and on, but it is a very important time for people in terms of how they communicate and how they're being received. And so if you're willing to break cycles, and just play the game very, very differently, if you've had difficulty with communication and being heard, those aces come in to tell you that the time is now, where if you're willing to make bold changes. When I say bold changes, if you really want to harness the energy, if you want to harness the energy of the aces in your life, you have to make choices that are very determined. You will do things that people wouldn't think that you would. You would kind of baffle the matrix. You would force the world to respond to you differently by dramatically altering your behavior patterns. Except in this case, with the Ace of Swords, it's about altering your behavior patterns when it comes to communication. And so, anyway, not to go on and on, I'm probably overcomplicating that one card for you, Valerie Smith, and anyone else who needs to receive it. But it's just a very important time for communication. And so I hope that helps. But anyway. And whoa, so here's the thing. I think I'm going to pray that we can do one or two more readings. I didn't realize that my computer would actually tell me my phone's about to die. So who knows? My phone actually might die while we're doing this. But I'm going to pull just one more person from the list randomly. And just so you know, guys, we're doing this because I have no more battery on the phone. And let me just check. Okay. And so it does look like our internet might still be out. So I'm on pure hotspot in the middle of Hurricane Ian. We're on pure hotspot energy. But we're gonna grab somebody from the list. And so this is for everyone, and also for the person that I choose, because I can tell we're not going to be able to hang in here much longer. I'm going to grab somebody at random. Boom, E.T. Juan. What? Hello. Howdy. Thanks for rolling through. You came to the right place at the right time. I happened to see your little thing. And so this is for ET1 and anyone else who wants or receives this energy. You'll know if it's for you. So don't worry if I didn't call you here today. Thanks for hanging out from out there in Malaysia. And so I pray that this energy finds you well for those working with ET1 and anyone else that's out there. Boom. Whoa, you got a really cool thing. So you got the High Priestess. Wow. I'm going to be real. When the High Priestess comes into your life, it's similar in intensity to something like the Tens, because you will be in a transitional stage. Generally, when the High Priestess comes into your life, well, not generally, I'll just get very specific here at risk of totally alienating you from this random moment of, one card readings. I'm going to go into pure High Priestess energy. So this may or may not make sense. When this energy appears in your life, you are nearly always, not always, but in most cases, ooh, Lord, I think our power just went out. Hopefully we're still alive. Let me know if we are. I'm on battery power. Let's see how long it goes. This is an initiation phase in your life in which you must trust your intuition. The high priestess brings activation of your third eye and activation of your throat chakra, but you must give voice to what you are perceiving within your internal realm. When it shows up in your life, you will be placed in situations in which you have no choice but to trust your intuition. So you may come up against strange roadblocks, social obstacles, or issues in your life in which you are going to be forced to just trust your gut, to listen to the voice inside your body and to react accordingly. You will have no other evidence other than your heart at a certain stage, and that's how you will know when the high priestess is active. The awkward part is she does not guarantee you will make the right decision. She's putting you through an initiation process in which you may be tricked. You may be forced to peer deeper. She causes you to look deeper and to really open up your ability to perceive intuitively. She's the primary initiator in the world of tarot, but she does not initiate you through special ceremonies. We don't go to the inner earth and have some ceremony down there. It's like she does it in real time by putting you in situations where you're like, wow, I have no idea what to do, but I just feel like I'm supposed to blank. I don't have any evidence. I feel it. That's how you know you're following this. Perceive what is in your mind's eye, but be sure to express it. Because if the high priestess does not communicate what she's perceiving internally, a lot of that energy can be wasted, or we won't necessarily receive the lesson or the initiation and the forward movement that it grants. And so, anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying you're in an intuitive activation stage. And so, whoa, major wind out there, which is fun because at the beginning of our live stream, we were talking about the third eye and what happens within the third eye as the third eye activates. Let's say if you were doing readings and you're like, dear spirit, what part of my energy body is activating? And you pulled the high priestess card. She's literally telling you third eye and throat. Those are the areas in which she operates. And so to me, it's a cool thing to have, but just know that you might have some uncertainty. There's going to be questions that come up when you're in a high priestess stage, and you're going to realize that you're like, oh my God, I have no idea. Whoa, what? You know what I mean? You're going to come into that moment. And so trust your gut, act accordingly. Thanks for hanging out, E.T. Juan. Appreciate you. Appreciate it. We're going to do one more because we're definitely going to get out of here. I got a dead battery, and I think the power's back on. The only thing that has power in the room I'm in is my computer and the light that's powering off of my computer. So in the other areas of my apartment, we might have no power. But anyway, we're going to try to do one more. Thanks for your comments, you guys. And thanks, Miss Liz, for putting the link up there. Yes, you can. If you're one of the people that's waiting for a reading here, you can also book the private, individualized version of this process where we go way deeper in way more detail, and we can do a lot of energy clearing. You can definitely book a session at rememberyourmission.com, but you don't have to. You can also come back later. We're going to do more live stream reading things. And so don't worry. Those of you who are called, you will know. You'll just feel it. But anyway, we're going to grab one more person here. Live from the wilds of Riverview, Florida. Hurricane Ian 2022. Let's grab somebody. I don't know who I have literally no idea, which sometimes is a worrying thing. My little mouse pointer, I'm going to close my eyes. It's going to stop on a person. Boom. This is who it is. A Hopeful Art. Thanks for hanging out. I know you've been here before, and I do apologize if you're one of the people that was hoping I would choose you, but this is also for you guys. I mean that very sincerely. If you're one of the people that's there, my prayer is that the energy of this card is going to reach everyone, but we're also aiming it directly at you, Hopeful Art. And yours was the comment that I clicked on, so hopefully you were asking for a card. But she also says, dark side of duality. Early on in my journey, I was hyper fixated on meditation. Me too. So I thought it was a good idea to reach out to angelic beings. Let's just say I contacted that energy. You know what's wild, man? You are opening such a fun door into another story I want to tell. And I'm just going to keep with your comments because now you definitely have my attention. But they were not the fluffy winged versions. I contacted the biblical representations, all eyes and wings. That is a thing you will perceive. Some of you guys see that meme where it's like this big bundle of eyes and wings and like this prismatic psychedelic looking distorted kind of shape, and it says "Be not afraid." It's just a meme at this point. But let me tell you, man, you can and will encounter energies and beings, and maybe they are actual angelic beings they do look very, very much like that. It's like a universal visual depiction that I think indicates that when you do perceive those energies, sometimes, not always, but sometimes it is literally a very, very wild thing. And anyway, I am definitely glad that you got to have that moment, Hopeful Art. For those of you guys that pay attention and want to help out in our next live stream, remind me that I can tell you the story of when I encountered what I think was an angelic being as well. But which, I'll be real, it's not much of a story. It's not nearly as cool as that. But it's not nearly as cool as that. Although maybe frightening, because Hopeful Art, I have also had things where it's like you will go into a space internally and you might perceive a being and you're like, oh my God, that was not what I wanted to see. It's not that it's traumatic, but it's just like you will have no frame of reference for the visual representation that is given to you. And for some people, it's like shocking. It can be like, how do I even talk about that? So anyway, thanks you guys. So this is for Hopeful Art and everyone else. Thank you, Valerie Smith, for doing the left eye thing. I'll say one more thing and then we'll do the reading. That's a little bit of a universal thing for everyone right now. If you guys are looking for ways in which you can connect more cleanly or directly with non-physical energy, sometimes we'll call them the telepathic thought forms, or just the communications that we're sharing that is not being said. Oftentimes they will come in the form of images. Sometimes those images will come in the form of a relation with your own memories. Ooh, man, it's getting wild. We're going to speed this up. But you can definitely peer into the left eye as one. But here's the thing. Some people will have a similar portal in their right eye. I use the left eye because I had a really, really crazy and intense activation of the left eye a couple of years ago, which actually I thought I was going to go blind for a little while. I definitely didn't, but some weird stuff happened. And so anyway, we will talk about that later. But by peering into one eye or the other, and you guys can monitor this on people when you're connecting with them. You can do it on YouTube as well, which is a really good place to do. You can just sit there and like stare at somebody and no one will see you doing it. So notice what sort of thought forms, notice what kind of messages, notice what sort of things come into your mind's eye when you do connect with people like that. What you'll find is that there's a little bit of like, it's like you have to wade through this sort of middle ground where it's all your thought forms and all of their thought forms. And then after a while, when you get through that, you will start to perceive things about the person. Sometimes you'll even think that you're having a conversation with them in your head, and it's sort of like you are and you aren't. It's like the sort of empathic interfacing that we'll do with our energy. But one of the primary gateways for that right now, you guys, is through the eyes. And we do have literal portals that open up. And so anyway, watch out. I'll get stuck on a rant on energetic anatomy, and then somehow my battery will die, which, oh my God, it's so close to die. And we won't get to do the last card. But here we go. For a Hopeful Art. And everybody else, pray for our hurricane adventure, guys. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. Whoa, we got an Empress again. That's a good sign. But if you know me, you'll know I'm not satisfied with just an Empress, because we've seen her. One more, boom. Ooh. Sometimes you'll say one more and you'll get a little bit more than you asked for. Hopeful Art and everyone else that's here, we have two things. Number one, the Empress, which we just heard about. I think the Empress is actually aiming directly toward you, Hopeful Art, from the perspective that I think if it was going directly toward you, I think it's asking you to embrace some of the power elements within your femininity, embracing your feminine power, and sort of, or maybe not sort of, working more directly toward what it is that you want to create and be known for right now. Because the Empress at certain stages, depending on how old you are, maybe, depending on how old you are, you could be going into a very new identity stage, which, if that is the case and you have an Empress in your life, and let's say it is a big deal, let's say it is really actively working in your life, you will be in a stage in which you can repeat certain things from other stages of your life. Meaning, sometimes it'll be things like, for me, like music or certain art or photography stuff that I had done at a previous stage of my life. Sometimes those things will come back. meaning you'll have like a resurgence of that energy will come back into your life at a different stage, and you can go back and you'll get a new opportunity in certain things that you tried to do in the past. The problem with the Empress, like you heard me say for somebody else earlier, the problem with the Empress is that if you are repeating certain things, or if you get new opportunities to repeat older processes, you definitely cannot do it the same way again. Oh, and I see you in the chat. You said 50. Okay, perfectly. So you're definitely in Emperor and Empress stage, just like me. And so you will have an opportunity to repeat certain things that you might have perceived had been lost sometimes, or certain things where maybe you were really into it or really big in it at another stage of your life, meaning, maybe back in your 20s or 30s you were really involved in X, Y, and Z. The Emperor and Empress can signal that that's coming back, that you'll have an opportunity to do it again or engage with it again. Just know though that if that happens, you have to do it very differently. You cannot repeat processes otherwise, or you can't repeat them in the same way you did before. Otherwise, you'll have moments where you will be keenly aware that, and actually, I'll say it because you and I are in a similar age group, you will be keenly aware of the fact that you are either much older or much younger than everyone else. And some people, you'll feel that and it's like, ooh, some people it'll be a good feeling. It kind of depends on where we are, but by really reinventing yourself and allowing yourself to update all of your techniques and approaches and whatever you're creating with an Empress, you can continue to have a period of, kind of like when they say like the prime of your life. By embracing Emperor and Empress energy, you can extend those stages indefinitely because you'll be constantly updating and reinventing yourself. So anyway, sorry to go on and on that hopeful art, but in my opinion, when we get Emperor and Empress, and it corresponds with the stage that we're in our life, there's a lot that we can work with. And I guess I also say that because I get Emperor a lot, and I always would be like, well, what the hell is this guy doing here? Whatever, man, I'm not that old. What? Like, and I don't feel old, but I'm just saying it will signal that there's a maturing and also a reinvention, but you just have to play the game differently. And so anyway, I'm kind of looping on that hopeful art and everyone else. And then lastly, it's a fun one to end on. We also have a 3 of Swords. And so hopeful art, you maybe you're feeling 3 of Swords in your life, maybe you're not. I have a feeling there's some people here on the chat that might have been feeling 3 of Swords. And what would happen when this is out? We might be feeling emotions. We might be feeling our old wounds. We might be feeling a resurgence of old social wounds, or a remembrance of emotional difficulties that we've had throughout this life. It honestly usually doesn't feel that good, but it's very important to understand that it's not a crisis. And as long as you're willing to really be strong, and kind of like you can imagine in this image, you guys, you'll kind of like, you'll pull the swords out. And what are the swords that would hit the 3 of Swords? I'm definitely drooling on myself now, but the swords in the 3 of Swords are usually things that were said, messages that were received. Sometimes there are things that were said back in childhood, or everyone had moments in your life, you guys. Maybe you were a kid, maybe you were an adult, doesn't matter how old you are, and someone said a thing to you and it just went like right in. And maybe it didn't ruin your life, maybe it didn't end things, maybe you just kept ticking, because the reality is 3 of Swords, you guys, you'll get hit and you're just like, it's cool, and you'll just keep going because it's internal, it's emotional. It's not a physical wound. And so the 3 of Swords are those moments where at other stages of your life, somebody said this thing and it just sunk in and you were like, and maybe it didn't define the path of your life, but you come to stages now where you'll try to do stuff, you'll try to move forward, and you'll remember it. It's like that message or that phrase or that person's face or that word is still there. Those are the swords that come with the 3 of Swords. And so the way we rid ourselves of them, well, you look at the element of Swords, which is air. And so what must it do? It must flow. What do we do with 3 of Swords? We speak openly about our emotional wounds. If we're doing energy healing, we work on the lungs and the heart. Why do we work on the lungs and the heart? Lungs are where we carry stagnated, trapped, longing, old, kind of sad emotions. And the heart, forgiveness, intimacy, compassion. And so there's a lot of energy that gets kind of wrapped up there. And I feel like I'm ranting on and on about it, but I would say if there's a thing that we would do just as a collective, because I guess it's a little awkward. It's really not awkward, but some people would say, like, why are you ending on a Three of Swords? Because I think it tells people that are here, if you're in a state of emotional difficulty or loss or upheaval, or if you've been aware lately of the places or the things that were said or the damage that you still carry from previous stages, the Three of Swords authorizes you to talk about it, to express it, to kind of let things go. And so, anyway, um, I hope that helps everybody. It's definitely a healing opportunity when Three of Swords comes out. But thank you for hanging out with us, you guys. We are literally at the end of my battery. I do not know the percentage on it, but there's like a mere fragment, and my computer is asking me to shut down or disconnect from my hotspot. So we are at the end of our kind of energy cycle here today, and you guys are hearing the storm back there. Yes, you definitely can. Thank you, Liz White Swan. We are meeting in October in the Patreon group. I think it's October 22nd. And you guys can always find me at rememberyourmission.com if you want to book a private reading or a private energy clearing session, or if you want to check out the training programs that we have. In mid-October, we are starting the private sessions, and on November 6th, we're starting the next round of classes. So you guys can join. There's 3 different levels of the work that we do. You guys can check it all out. Rememberyourmission.com. Yes, you can make payments on every single part of it. For those that want to join our program, that's the biggest question everyone's asking. Like, can I make payments on it? Yeah, totally. Definitely. And so reach out with any questions. Find us at rememberyourmission.com. And please do join us this Saturday, you guys. Assuming, the storm has passed, or, I don't know. I'm sure it'll be fine. But we'll be back Saturday, 8 p.m. with Aurora Diamondheart, one of our awesome mods. I think she took off earlier, but she's going to be coming in to hang out and get weird with us. So thank you for your prayers in the midst of this wild hurricane. It does sound pretty crazy. I'll be real. I haven't looked outside since we've been in here, but there's like, I would say significantly more storm activity and kind of wind gusting and stuff than there was earlier. So it's definitely real, but it doesn't feel like a world ending cataclysm. So thank you for your prayers and your well wishes, and please subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, we shall be back in the coming days. Let's see if this thing lets me out of here. I love you guys. Live from the School of Multidimensional Intuition. We are in the third eye. Literally, we're in the third eye of Hurricane Ian. So we'll see you later. Boom.